Those of you who are familiar with the conflict between Agamemnon and Achilles in the Iliad know that this conflict occurs because Agamemnon is forced to give up a war prize, and Achilles, who is his main competitor in terms of receiving honor, is forced to surrender his war prize to Agamemnon because Agamemnon seizes his war prize as an insult. The idea of fighting people on your own side in your own army over a girl, nonetheless, is a little bit foreign to us, and it doesn't really make sense. However, this requires an understanding of the Greek culture and their concept of a heroic society, which is what we're going to focus on today. You will obviously need to be able to define a heroic society. You will also need to know which cultures within the Iliad subscribe to the heroic society. You should be able to define a hero according to how heroes function within a heroic society. You should be familiar with Sarpedon's speech, the description it provides of heroic society, the flaws of a heroic society, the importance of a war prize within the heroic society, and the consequences for the way flaws within the heroic society can be manipulated. First, heroic society is defined as an aristocratic warrior society centered on battlefield achievement and its awards. Your heroes are at the top of the hierarchical structure in a heroic society. They are the most important people in this society. Heroes are defined as superior men who are either descendants of gods or mortals. They can be both. One is not a requirement, but often they are descendants of gods and important mortals. They are born into positions of prominence, such as kings and other rulers or war heroes. They reaffirm their superiority through courageous performance in combat. They go out and they fight. They are the soldiers of their people, the big protectors. Their high status is expressed in social gestures. They receive special privileges, they have wealth, and they have fame. And they also live a very communal life. Heroes hang out together, they eat together, they sleep in the same places, they talk with each other. It's like a band of brothers with all the contention and competition of a pack of scheming teenage girls. So the life is very communal in the sense that they all circuit the same places and they share the same things. But there's a lot of tension in that setup as well, like 13 girls sharing one bathroom. Heroic society in the Iliad is shown by both the Greek and the Trojan cultures, and it's illustrated through Homeric warfare. Homeric warfare, by the way, is a little bit different from what we're used to, because instead of straight up action and violence, they have action and violence in, how's the best way to say this? There's action and violence broken up by long flowery speeches. They'll be in the middle of a war scene, and then all of a sudden somebody will stop and give a big long flowing speech about whatever. It may or may not be about killing the person that they're fighting with, and all of the battle seems to pause around this. That is Homeric warfare. It is a fictional element in that we know nobody actually stops in the middle of the battlefield and gets to give a speech without getting themselves killed, so this one is important to recognize as a means of illustrating how the heroic society functions. This is best illustrated through Sarpedon's speech. Sarpedon is a mortal son of Zeus, and the speech occurs in Book 12, which we are not reading. We'll look at a brief segment of it in this lesson. The heroic society is questioned by Achilles. He illustrates the flaws within it and kind of gives us a bit of a restructure as to what it should function as instead of what it does function as. So Sarpedon's speech, this is the first part of it. It reads, Glaucus, you know how you and I have the best of everything in Lycia. Seats, cuts of meat, full cups, everybody looking to us as if we were gods. Not to mention our estates on the Xanthus, fine orchards and riverside wheat fields. Well, now we have to take our stand at the front, where all the best fight and face the heat of battle, so that many an armored Lycian will say, so they are not inglorious after all, are Lycian lords who eat fat sheep and drink the sweetest wine. No, they are strong and fight with our best. This section is divided into two parts. The first part lists the advantages of being a hero. They get the best seats in the house. They get the best cuts of meat. They have lots of wine to drink. Everybody adores them. And they get fine estates with lots of productive fields and orchards. Okay? They are the top of society. They've got the money and the fame. They're like the celebrities of the Greek society. But this comes at a cost. Because they get these, they are responsible for protecting the people. They have to stand on the front lines, and they have to fight like heroes in order to earn the things that they are accustomed to having. We have another section where, again, there are two parts. First and foremost, my friend, if you and I could only get out of this war alive, then be immortal and ageless all of our days, I would never fight again among the foremost, or send you into battle where men win glory. But as it is, death is everywhere, in more shapes than we can count, and since no mortal is immune or can escape, let's go forward, either to give glory to another man, or to get glory from him. The first section shows us the justification for giving heroes what they've been given in society. They don't want to fight. They don't want to risk their lives or the lives of their friends. They don't want to see these people die. So the motivation for them risking life and limb in battle is that they receive prizes, meat, houses, wealth, women, fame. These are things that they receive so that they will want to risk their lives for other people. Also, they are motivated because they know that death will come to everyone. Doesn't matter whether you fight or not, eventually you are going to die. So, they feel that if you are going to die, it is better to die in glory than it is to die in your bed, sleeping. A little bit of a Viking crossover there. The idea of giving glory to another man means that, that man could kill us and gain glory from us, but perhaps we'll get some from another person. This is how battle is for the Greeks and the Trojans in this particular setup. There are flaws in the heroic system. First off, the Iliad is set 9 years into a 10-year war, which means everyone is exhausted. They've been fighting a very long time with very little progress and heavy losses on both sides. Everyone is ready for this to be done, so tempers abound. And both sides are drained of resources. The things that make being the hero endurable are running low in supplies, and they have to finish the war in order to get what they feel they deserve and what makes war a worthwhile risk for them. Because these benefits are in short supply, they call into question the worth of the heroic system in general. And we start with a bit of a powder keg. Apollo's curse causes the Greeks to return Chryses and the Agamemnon's war prize to her father, and thus the Greeks are now short a prize to honor their heroes. This brings the competition between Agamemnon and Achilles into open hostility, because Agamemnon will not be least honored. He is the most prominent king there and thinks that he deserves the most honor, and so he decides that somebody else will have to give a prize, voluntarily or otherwise. When Achilles calls him out on this, Agamemnon determines that he will make Achilles feel the pain of his own loss, and that he will take Achilles' war prize. The loss of a prize results in a perceived loss of honor. Both heroes, Agamemnon and Achilles, have their self-worth wrapped up in being honored. So it's not just a, hey, you took my girlfriend, it's a, you have told me I am not the person that I've always perceived myself to be, and this is a problem. The sense of honor is symbolized by war prizes, and it equates to the willingness to risk life and limb. So war prizes are essential, war prizes being women that were captured in battle and doled out to soldiers. War prizes are essential to these men feeling like it is worth it to die. Agamemnon's taking of Rhesus from Achilles will raise the questions about the relative value of a fighter versus royalty. Is a warrior more important in heroic society than a king? and a commander. These are all things to consider. What you're going to do right now is look at the actual argument between Achilles and Agamemnon. First, you will read pages 3 through 8, and what I want you to do is record Agamemnon's complaints about Achilles and Achilles' complaints about Agamemnon. They trade insults back and forth, so you need to look at the insults there and really see what the other is saying about their opponent. Then, after we've talked about that, you're going to read pages 10 through 14, and you're going to list the consequences of Agamemnon taking Briseis from Achilles. Agamemnon calls Achilles a deserter because Achilles threatens to go home since the war wasn't his to fight in the first place, and he's there hanging out doing Agamemnon a favor with his amazing fighting abilities. Agamemnon calls him a deserter if he wants to be and says he doesn't care. He calls Achilles a hateful king and a troublemaker and violent. Basically, he is saying that Achilles' willingness to be a warrior here makes him a person who is not easy to get along with, that because he is king of Phthia and he just likes to cause trouble and stand up against Agamemnon, that he has no value as a fighter. He also outright calls Achilles inferior to him and says that his duties as a warrior within this army and heroic society are not actually valuable. Achilles, in return, calls Agamemnon greedy and selfish. He says he takes all of the best war prizes and booty for him, and he leaves those who do the hard work with the lesser prizes. He calls him a glory hound. He says all you do is seek praise. He says he's profiteering. You're only in this for the wealth. He calls him dog-faced, which, given what they think of dogs and the fact that they throw their enemies' bodies to dogs to be devoured, is an insult. And lazy, that he stays behind and just gives orders and doesn't go out in the field to risk life or limb. He calls him a bloated drunk, dog-eyed, similar to dog-face, rabbit-hearted, which is the equivalent to a coward. And he outright calls him not a man. Agamemnon, in Achilles' eyes, does not exhibit the characteristics of a good man or a man at all. He is a coward and selfish and profiteering. He is not in it to do the best by the Greeks. He's in it to do the best for himself. Achilles' response to Agamemnon seizing his war prize is to call on Zeus to curse the Greeks. He also withdraws from the fighting. He's one of their best fighters, so losing his abilities in the battlefield makes it uneven because now there's no one to counter Hector, the man-killer, who is Troy's best fighter. And there is a prophecy that says if Achilles doesn't fight, the Greeks will lose. But the other half of that prophecy says that if Achilles does fight, he'll die. So Achilles is currently caught up in a section wherein if he fights, he dies. But Agamemnon has taken away the honor that makes that risk, that sacrifice, worthwhile. You need to, at this point in time, complete the discussion question on Edmodo, and remember there will be a quiz in class tomorrow.